G'day you mob, what's going on? Welcome to this episode of Pete vs. Plants. I'm Pete. The plants will shortly be on screen. Today we have some chores to do. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. Hopefully a long one for you guys, seeing as a bunch of you have said that's the sort of content that tickles your fancy. So I will do my best to rabbit on for as long as possible today. Yeah, let's just get into it. I'll find some shit to do. Okay, so firstly, I think it's time to pot up these albo deliciosa cuttings that I got that have since pushed out leaves. Now, I think I have mentioned these in previous videos. I think I did it in, oh my God, I can't even remember. It may have been the mint video where I was chopping that up, but I was telling you guys that I got these from the same person, and I'm pretty sure based on this half mooning and the way the variegation is, it looks like a mirror image, right? Where you even have this kind of fleck of white on the green side on both of them. I'm pretty sure this was from the same plant from the same person, but as a result of the variegation being split like this half mooning, when the axillary buds were activated on either side of the different nodes, on the single node cuttings that I got, we got different amounts of variegation on the leaves that subsequently came out. So I think my hypothesis here, my explanation for this, is that when you have a Monstera albo growing and it is pushing out sort of half moon kind of leaves, similar to these, right? There's sort of green, predominantly green on one side, or maybe even 100% green on one side, and predominantly white or 100% white on the other side. And I think whilst the growth point is sort of going up, what would you say, sort of switching from side to side, right? As those new leaves come out of that growth tip, the half mooning kind of ends up mirror imaging itself. So you kind of have, usually, I think, if it's half mooning, the white will be on one sort of side of the stem. It'll be either facing you or it'll be facing the back. And the axillary, or not the axillary bud, but the growth point of the plant, the apical bud, is going from sort of one side to the other and hitting that sort of 50% green, 50% white, whether the white's on the back or the white's on the front. And so you're ending up with that half happening. I think though, what happens is that often the axillary buds that end up on the sides of the nodes that aren't activated, quite often when something is half mooning, they'll end up either being 100% green or 100% white, just based on the sort of positioning of the white and the green on the stem. I think, again, this is my hypothesis. You guys let me know if you disagree or if you have other opinions. But I think what happens is that that dominant shoot that is growing out, that growth point, keeps hitting the 50-50% sort of in the middle, what would you say, that sort of margin between the two different, the white and the green on the plant. God, my English is horrible today. Whereas the axillary buds get placed in such a way that they end up in predominantly white or predominantly green or even 100%. And so what happens is that I think when you take those cuttings and then obviously you don't have that apical bud going out the top, the growth point, and you have to activate those axillary buds at the sides, as a result, this kind of thing can happen where you end up with, say, heavily variegated, potentially all white, depending on, you know, the variegation of the original leaf, or the original node rather, and the other option is predominantly green. So that is at least my hypothesis here, despite both these leaves looking effectively the same in just mirror images, right, of one another when I got them. So I think to sort of guard against this, if you're in the market for an albo and you're sort of worried about this happening, especially if it is like a half moon leaf cutting, make sure that you get a photo of the apical bud, of the growth point that will be activating on the side, and just make sure that there is white on that. You don't want it to be 100% white, you don't want it to be 100% green, because it will have a really high percentage chance of becoming one of those two things, which doesn't bode well for your plant. Either you'll end up with a nice healthy kind of green deliciosa, or it'll be a white one that effectively dies. So yeah, get a look at the bud, and if it is kind of like, I always say sort of Wagyu beef, if you kind of get this candy cane Wagyu beef kind of look where the white is kind of really meshed in with the green, if that's a good description, and it's hard for those things to kind of be differentiated out, you've got a good chance of ending up with stuff that is more like this than this or pure white. So yeah, it's been an interesting learning lesson. Price-wise, I bought these probably at the end of COVID, so maybe it would have been just after COVID. So it was probably about 6 months ago, and this is kind of the amount of growth that you can expect out of, I guess, each plant in about 6 months, maybe a little less. I think I spent between 400 and 450 on these two. I ended up buying 4 cuttings from the same person. She sent me a pack of 4, and I think I spent about $1,200. So it was about $400 per leaf. And they were, from memory, all unactivated. So they didn't have any kind of growth of that axillary bud. It hadn't activated yet. There was no growth point coming out of that. I think they were relatively freshly taken, but they did have somewhat of a root system already. So she'd obviously air layered it. So anyway, yeah, that is the story there. And I guess, yeah, the expectation I want to give you is that if you get these, and they wouldn't be older than 6 months. I didn't write down the date. But if you get these and the nodes aren't activated, this is the kind of amount of growth that you can expect to get if you buy them in winter in Australia, in Melbourne, under my conditions. This is the kind of growth that you can expect. So I guess I've got 3 leaves on this one, and the 4th is emerging. So I guess that's about 1 leaf every, 1.5 months, 2 months. And I have 2 leaves on this one with the 3rd emerging here, and I'm unsure what to do with this one. If it does just completely revert to green, I'll probably either chop it up and see how these go, or just sell it, or even, potentially throw it out. Don't tell anyone. If you want this and you're in Australia and I decide to chop this up and get rid of it, just send me a message. I'll let you know. I'll let you guys know. I won't throw it out, okay? But yeah, that'll be the option if it completely reverts, because I'm just not going to have space for just standard green deliciosa. As you guys may know, my goal is to try and get 50 plants on par with this in the next year, so that I'll have mother plants that I can keep taking cuttings from and use that to sort of get an income on the side. And the goal really is to get enough income coming in each month to kind of pay the house off outside of my wage and my wife's wage. That was kind of the goal. Use the plants for paying off the ridiculously expensive house that we have in Australia, because the housing market here sucks. So yeah, anyway, these guys have been kind of needing to be watered every 2 days. So I'm thinking it's probably time that they get potted into the next size up. They have had a lot of algae. I did use some of this mesh at the bottom. I started doing that when I first got into this, thinking that it would keep the roots in the soil. But to be honest, I've noticed, as you can probably see here, the roots actually end up growing through it, and then it makes repotting a total bitch, where you end up breaking the tips off the roots. And I kind of, really don't like that anymore. So I don't think I'm going to be using this kind of fly wire at the bottom. So yeah, I guess I'm going to go outside and see if I can find my potting mat. I think I've accidentally left it in the rain. So if it's wet, I guess I'll just do it on the table and then have to give it a good clean afterwards. But yeah, bear with me. Yeah, I think I definitely need to get a smaller potting mat, guys. This is this is starting to get unruly. Oh man, especially with all the crap that I have on the table here. All right, so I guess I will get some paper towel and dry off a bit of this rainwater. The rain has been helping wash this off. I left it outside. I gave it a hose down and left it outside to sort of dry out, and it's just been raining consistently every day. At the moment, Australia's suffering from La Nina at the moment, so the weather system has got a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and it's just bloody raining all the time. We've had it's been insanely wet. It's just been ridiculous for probably the last 6 months or more. There's just been floods everywhere. Okay, so I'm just going to give these guys a little squishy squish. And I'm going to pot them up into some of these 14 centimetre pots. Let me just grab them out, and I'll have to get the soil. Here we go. And I'll also have to get the soil out of the garage. One sec. Okay, soil here. Man, I should turn the lights on. That might help a little bit. Maybe I can put the soil up here. Running out of space. All right, so the other reason I'm wanting to pot these up is because the aerial roots are kind of poking out the side here, and I want to submerge those into the soil. just, yeah, to get a bit of extra growth. And I haven't really decided when to chop these, like how many nodes to let develop before giving them the chop again to try and get some more albos out of each one. Because, yeah, the goal, as I told you, was to get 50 plants within, I don't know, a year or so. I thought it should be exponential, right? If you can cut, if you get 10 plants and then you let them grow out to 5 nodes each, beyond the one that you started with, then you should be able to chop those all up in maybe, how long would that take? Maybe 7 months, 8 months to get 50 plants total, and then they obviously have to activate. So I reckon you'd need another 4 or so months for all that to sort of activate and things to start taking off before you could then start taking cuttings and selling them. And I have to work out too, once I have my 50 plants, say they're all single nodes, and they're growing out, how many nodes do you sort of allow to grow out before you start harvesting to create plants to then sell? Because, yeah, the goal is to have 50 mother plants from which I can take, on average, it would be nice to have a leaf a month. It's probably ambitious, maybe a leaf every 2 months. So that would be 50 times 6 leaves, so 300 leaves a year. And if you could do $200 a leaf, I think it works out to maybe $60,000 a year. I think that would be what it is. Again, I'm not the best at maths, but this is really interesting. Some of the growth on here. I don't know what this green stuff is, like moss. Could be algae. In fact, it's probably algae. No, it looks like some kind of moss. Look at that. I don't know if you can see this. Use my head as a background, but it has definitely been growing a nice little ecosystem in here. So yeah, anyway, that's the kind of goal. And I've talked to a few other sort of professional plant sellers here in Australia, and they say focus on the albos because they can't be put through TC and they tend to be so popular. So, I mean, obviously, the more that people do that, the more the market gets flooded and the more the prices drop. But yeah, if you're going to do it with any plants, I guess the justification or the rationale is find ones that can't necessarily be put through tissue culture, at least not easily. So those would be any with variegation that's unstable. And look for those types that are unstable and obviously popular plants. Get yourself a few different types, get a few mother plants together, and then start growing them out and start selling them and see how you go. And, I have no idea what's going to happen. We'll see how we go. Bloody hell, broke off a root. We'll see how we go, but that is the plan. All right, I think I'm just going to have to snap a few of these off. Okay, take the moss off as well. So I had put the moss at the top here just to kind of make sure that the aerial root that initially came out of this plant had a bit of moisture around it. It tends to sort of encourage them to grow a little more quickly, I've noticed. I don't know if you can see this. And to sort of branch out. So yeah, that was the rationale there. So you can see this root here has gone all the way around the back here and around the side. So I'm just going to see if I can sort of loosen this up a little bit without doing too much damage. It's a little bit wet because I watered it just the other day. Give it a tap. The tap tends to work pretty well to loosen things up a little bit. You know what? I'm going to not disturb this too much. It's actually quite dense with roots. They're kind of all packed out in there. So what I might do is try and plant this up to about here, or at least close to that root, so that we'll then have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these large roots going into the soil. I'm not sure if you can see, but there are 3 under here that are sort of, all packed in really close together. So there's actually 3, 5 roots. A 4th one here that's come down, and then this one coming. So yeah, the rationale is obviously having as many of those nice large roots going into the soil as possible to get a ton of nutrients to the plant and hopefully allow it to grow as quickly as possible. Okay, so I'm going to try and separate the moss out, and the soil should be all good to chuck back in. It's only been in this soil for a couple of months, so it shouldn't be that sort of used up. I kind of like reusing my soil, to be honest. Bit of a tight ass when it comes to soil. Not when it comes to plants, but when it comes to soil. Probably not the way to be. Okay. All right, so I do have the root right here at the edge. Ideally, I'd have it submerged, but what I can do is what I've done here on this one and just put a cup half a cup plastic cup here like this. And as you can see on the back here, it encourages the root to grow down into the pot. Let's get this out of the way. All right, where's my little shovel? Shovel. I feel like that'd be an awesome name for a dog. Shovel! Shovel! Where are you, Shovel? I reckon that's an awesome name. I think I might have to call it, if we ever get a dog, I'm totally going to call it Shovel. Where's Shovel? You guys will have to look up. There's a video. It reminded me of this video of, it's in I think they would say South Africa, with the South African accent. God, I love that accent. It is, oh man, it's beautiful. I think to people who are Australian, the South African accent is probably how we view that accent like you guys view Australian accents. You sort of see it, I mean, the stereotype is, there's probably plenty of people who hate it, but the stereotype is that Australian accents are sexy. As someone with an Australian accent, I feel like I don't have an accent, I don't notice it. So when I hear South African accents, I'm just like, oh, so nice. So I wonder if that's the equivalent for Australians, you know? It's the Australian accent, or it's the Aussie accent for Aussies. But yeah, I love it when I hear it. Anyway, I'm rambling on. The story is that there is a video on YouTube that's really cool about what are they called again? Those damn animals that are like scarier than lions. My God, I'm having such a brain fart. And I'm a biologist. How am I forgetting this shit? God damn it. What are they called? They're not wolverines. My God, you guys are going to be yelling at the screen. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. What are they bloody well called? Honey badgers. Honey badgers. That's what I'm thinking. Jesus Christ. It's a honey badger and it's in captivity. And it's called Stottle, I think. Stottle. And it is like a massive escape artist. You've got to check this video out. If I can find it, I'll try and link it. I'll try and remember to link it in the description. But effectively, he like piles up rocks and mud and like brooms if they're left in his enclosure and uses them to escape so that he can just run around the sort of mini zoo that he's living in. But it was like the coolest video of this just epic animal. I would absolutely love to have a honey badger as a pet. I reckon it would just be the most insane pet. It'll probably be a total pain in the ass to keep. I imagine it'd be a nightmare. And I think in this video you see that the people who own it freak out one night because they hear someone rummaging through their house, and it turns out that Stottle had like broken into the house and gotten into the fridge or something to get food, and the owners just shit themselves. It's just the badger has broken into the house and smashed a window or something. But yeah, I reckon they would be awesome pets because, yeah, you don't fuck with badgers, honey badgers, man. You just don't fuck with them. They're like just vicious. And the cool thing about them, there's other videos online. I absolutely loved honey badgers when I was a biology student because the cool thing about them is they pretty much eat anything and they'll scare the shit out of things like lions. They'll come over and scare lions away from a carcass so that they can dig in. And they have the crazy thing about weasels and the weasel family, which is I think what the honey badger's in with badgers and with wolverines and with all sorts of other, I guess they're carnivores, is that they're really flexible within their own skin. They can kind of like turn all the way around. If you try and grab the back of their neck, they can turn the whole way around and sort of attack you. So they're really hard to pin down. And their skin is also really thick. It's fucked. You got to check them out. And so you'll see lions trying to deal with these animals when they're fighting with them or whatever. And no matter how the lion grabs the honey badger will be able to turn around and just attack the lion. But the really cool thing about them, and I'm thinking, what am I looking for? I'm looking for this. The really cool thing about them is that they eat snakes. They eat venomous snakes. And so there's videos online. There's a video, I don't know if it's a David Attenborough one, but it's one of those doco types where the honey badger's going after a death adder, I think, which is, a type of viper. And so they're highly, highly venomous. And it attacks it. I'm pretty sure it injures it or kills it, but in the process, it gets bitten in the face by this puff adder or whatever it is in the desert of Africa there somewhere. And you would think, he's a goner. He's fucked. He's cooked. He's been bitten in the fucking face. How is he going to survive this? And the crazy thing is, they're immune, or they're not immune, but their bodies can handle the venom. So effectively, the the honey badger just kind of slows down, like he freaks out. He's obviously, copped 2 fangs and, 2 glands full of venom to the face. And he sort of just slows down and just goes to sleep. And the people that were filming it apparently were just like, oh, we wanted to see what would happen. We didn't know if he was dying. We didn't know what was going on. So they just kept filming. And I think it was like either after an hour or after several hours, the badger just woke up and was just like, oh, there's breakfast, and just ate the rest of the snake. Like, just kept messing it up, gone, smashed it. So all it did was sort of sleep, its body dealt with the venom, flushed it out of its system, gets up, finishes the snake that tried to kill it, and then just goes on with its day. And you're just like, these are the most badass animals that I think evolution has ever created. Like, oh yeah. I could talk about honey badgers for days, but yeah, check it out. There'll be those 2 videos. The one where Stottle is escaping his little enclosure, and there'll be one, just type in like honey badger bitten by snake, and I bet you it'll be the first thing to come up. It's just nuts. So anyway, there we go, guys. I've potted this one up. I always seem to leave the stupid barcodes on these pots. So chucked it in there. I have sunk the node down in the soil. It should be all right. It's so calloused over. It's almost woody now. But again, you can just keep an eye on it if you're really worried about it rotting. But even if it does, you've got aerial roots above it that are now going into the soil, as you can see here. I love having roots up against the plastic when you repot things like this, just so that you can kind of keep an eye on the health of it, so that if for whatever reason, your mix is too dense and you end up overwatering it, you'll be able to see the root health. And you usually can see pretty quickly, within like a week or so, the tips of the roots will sort of come to the outside and start sort of pushing around, which is a great sign. And I've also put this half plastic cup that my wife uses most days for her shake when we're going to work. I love using these. I just cut them in half and chuck them behind the aerial roots that are poking out, so that they end up going back into the pot. And obviously it's just sort of a quick fix for any of these plants that are initially growing, and the aerial roots are right close to the edge here, and they're sort of hard to tuck back in. If you were to sort of wait for them to grow, they'd get to this point. But yeah, that's my sort of go. And then once it goes below the rim of the pot here, you can just take this out. It's that easy. So I think we are all good, and I probably don't really need to water this guy. Just trying to make sure that some of the soil ends up, there's some air gaps down here, so I just want to make sure that there's a bit of soil that makes it down. I probably won't water it for a few days, just because I had watered it, I think probably yesterday or the day before, so it was still pretty damp and doesn't need to be overwatered. But to be honest, I've kind of found Monstera to be pretty tolerant of, I don't know about overwatering, but definitely underwatering. So I'm yet to really suffer from any significant root rot, knock on wood, from Monsteras. They seem to be pretty hardy, and I don't know if it's like related to the size of the roots. They seem to have like ultra chunky roots, and so yeah, maybe because of the sort of lack of the reduced surface area to volume, they don't suffer from root rot as quickly as something with really fine roots. I don't know, but overall I found them to be pretty good. Okay, so time to do this guy. So as you can see, you can just pull that out, and that root has grown down into the substrate here. Okay, take him out. So it'll be interesting to see if this thing does come good in terms of variegation or not. I don't know how many leaves to sort of give it. I'm thinking, maybe 3, and if it's 3 in a row that are sort of majority green like this, there's a tiny amount of variegation here, but if it's 3 in a row, it's probably all over, I would imagine. Though I can see some lines of variegation going up the stem here. Okay, so I'm just going to try and gently tease the gauze off the plant here, and keeping these roots at the bottom intact, hopefully. Yeah, I'm so surprised that they grew through it, because the gauze is pretty, like, it's pretty fine, and these fat as roots have somehow pushed through. I guess part of their thickness is the hairs that come out, and perhaps the roots can sort of fit through, and then they fatten up again with the hairs. But yeah, it's it's annoying. I was kind of hoping that gauze would keep the roots kind of in check. But yeah, guess again. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull you out without breaking you. Sorry, mate. And I have this stuff growing in here again. All right, see, can I get... I'm not going to be able to do that. Yeah, they're gone as cooked. Burp, burp, burp. Sorry. Stay. No, you're off. God, that makes me so sad. Ah! Hate it. I hate losing roots like that. All right, so anyway, there's some really good chunky ones in here that are obviously doing pretty well. There was a little bit of rot here at the bottom on some of those roots, but again, these guys tend to be pretty strong, so I'm not too worried about the rot really affecting them. And I have sort of noticed that quite often these plants kind of adjust themselves, so they'll just kill off some roots, and then next to where the rest of the root has rotted, we'll just shoot out another root. So I think we often in the plant community kind of freak out quite a bit about root rot, but I think it probably is just a big part of the natural process that is, you know, the plant growing a root ball. For whatever reason, sometimes it decides, I don't need these, I'm going to kill them off, I'm not going to bother using them, and I'm going to grow some out from above or further back along the root. So again, okay, I'm just going to pot this guy a little bit deeper. I'll probably submerge this entirely, just because. And we'll see how we go, I guess. Hopefully it will start pushing out some nice variegation, but yeah. What can you do? What can you do? All right, I'm going to try and get rid of some of these broken root tips. And the sheath here, the moss out of this soil, and then I'm going to chuck this soil back in. Mix it in with the fresh stuff. What else can we talk about? Fertilizing wise, I've just been fertilizing these guys and everything in my collection every single time I water now. So I do the 50% dilution of what they suggest on the bottle and then just use that at all times. And to be honest, again, you know, hopefully I'm not jinxing myself, I haven't burnt anything yet in my collection, not that I've noticed at least. So it seems to be working well, and it's definitely way better than having to try and keep track of everything that you fertilized. I can't imagine once you get to the point where, I haven't counted my plants, but I would imagine that I have probably between 200 and 300, probably about that in the house. I think trying to keep track of which you have and which you haven't fertilized would be a total nightmare. That would just be how to make your life more stressful than it needs to be. Like, God, anyone out there who has like spreadsheets and can actually keep track of which plants they have fertilized and haven't fertilized, and they've got, you know, triple digits, respect. You know, that is a very scary / admirable effort. Okay, so doing the good old slap and tap to try and fill up some of these air gaps down in the pot here with soil. I just keep tapping away usually and just see, does the soil keep sinking down? If it keeps sinking down, you're obviously filling up pockets. Once it stops, you are obviously, well, hopefully, good to go. So again, keeping that root below the surface now. Hopefully it really digs in, gives some support to this plant, and allows nutrient and water uptake into the higher up nodes and speeds up that growth. Okay. That's so funny. The more you do these videos, especially when you go back and edit them, you notice yourself saying these phrases constantly. So I'll say things like, okay, or so, and all right, okay, all right. And for you guys, it's probably not that annoying because it's just part of, you know, standard speech and you're not really paying much attention to it. But when you go back and edit these things, it's like the most annoying thing in the world, hearing yourself saying this shit constantly, and you're just like, God, can't you think of some synonyms? You got like there's like three moves that you constantly just spam. Okay, all right, so. Okay, all right, so. And sometimes combos. All right, so. All right, okay, so. All right, so I'm going to throw this in the rubbish. I'm going to put these guys back on the rack, and we'll get on to the next task. I've got some stuff to chop up, and it's been making me quite annoyed, to be honest, guys. Yeah, you'll see. Okay, so, all right. It is time to deal with these monstrosities. These have been a pain in my backside. So the one that I have here, I wonder if you can guess what it is. Melanochrysum. I got this from someone who had grown this up the pole and it hadn't sized up. I think she had 2 lengths of this pole. I only have one here. Almost lost it. But she had 2 lengths of it and it was all the same size the whole way up. So I took cuttings and put them in a prop box probably 5 months ago. And those cuttings are growing faster than the plant on the pole here. So I really don't get what is going on. But my goal with these guys is to just chop it up and propagate it again and turf the rest. Turf the bottom of it. And probably give some of these away. I actually sent some today to a follower. So again, if you guys are in Australia and you want some of these, you want to buy them, you want them, for free. If you want to trade them, let me know. Send me a message because I'm open to that sort of stuff all the time. And I have a whole bunch of melanochrysum now. The other one that I have here is a Philodendron gigas. And for whatever reason, this one has been a total pain in the ass. Like, I just don't get it. It has been this crinkled up, filthy, gross looking plant that's half dead for the last 4 or 5 months as well. And the annoying thing with this one was that when I was trying to plant it up on this pole, I tried bringing the stem closer to the pole and I ended up just snapping the top off clean. It took forever to propagate. I put that in water, and water propagation for both these two is a total pain in the ass. At least in my experience in winter in Melbourne, and now going into spring, it's been a bitch. The thing that did set both of these off like crazy, in fact, I don't know if I've done melanochrysum yet, but the thing that did gigas and made that propagate like nuts was aeroponics, putting it in a clone station. 2 weeks, and I had huge roots. So I think whether it's a humidity issue or it is an oxygen to nutrient water solution ratio thing, if you want to propagate these things fast, use a clone station, use aeroponics, because water has been a bitch. They're just a pain in the ass. They're a total nightmare. So again, my experience in my conditions. The reason I hate this plant at the moment is that, so I snapped off this tip and then what happened? I think it activated a bunch of nodes down here. So you can see there's one here that activated and the leaf got caught inside the pole here and just snapped off. And I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So I've been waiting for the last 2 months and it's done nothing. This activated and then stopped. So I have this little spike here and it's done bugger all. And it's the same thing here with the tip. I was expecting there to be some growth here and you can see there's like this, it looks like a little finger coming out, like something the size of my pinky. This green stub is coming out, but it's done nothing as well. It's sort of just activated and then stopped. So I don't know what the hell your problem is. I don't know why you hate me, but this plant has just done, it's just done nothing. It's done nothing. I don't understand you. And it's the same thing for this one growing up the pole. It was doing okay. It shot out this leaf, which was, acceptable. I don't know if you can see that. It had sort of sized down. So I was sort of like, you hurt me. But then it shot out another one and it did the same thing where the leaf broke off and the tip just stopped. And it's been like that for 2 months. So I just don't get it. I don't get it. The ones that I propagated from the tip that I did accidentally snap off of this thing, they took forever in water and nothing happened. Like very little happened. I put them into moss to try and speed things up and they grew out some roots and then they rotted. And I was just like, fuck my life. What is your problem? Why do you hate me? You were sending out beautiful roots and then within like a week, they just decided to disintegrate and turn black. That was when I put them into the clone station, the aeroponic system, and they had roots within weeks. And I put them into semi-hydro now. I'll go get them and show you. So I have them in this little jar here. And as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see behind this leaf here, they've gone bananas. So the roots are growing like crazy. And so yeah, I don't get it. The tips that I snapped off that I took forever to root in a whole bunch of different mediums and processes have done so much better than the actual established plants on the pole. So yeah, fucking gigas. Anyway, I think they just hate life, guys. But yeah, these two plants are the ones that have really tested my patience. So today I think we are just going to chop and prop because I want to dismantle these poles. I'm sick of looking at them and sick of being reminded every day at how much I have to learn. So yeah, I know. It's all me, guys. I know you guys have probably smashed these plants, but I'm still learning them for whatever reason. You know, certain plants in my care go nuts, other plants do not go nuts. So I feel like I'm not even going to give you guys a razor blade. I'm just going to use like the rustiest pair of scissors to chop you guys up because fuck you. You have been such a headache. You know what? I might even get a spoon out and use that, or I could just snap you with my hands. That's how much I'm irritated by you guys. We'll get something sharp. All right, we'll use a razor blade, but I'm not going to sanitize it. Screw ya. Okay, so through this one here. And we'll just go one by one all the way down. And I don't know whether to chuck these in aeroponics if I really care enough, or whether to chuck them into a prop box and just see what happens. Yeah, here you go. I have the rest of the plant. I'm just going to pull you out because I really don't care. See, how do you have like a decent root system with nice roots and you're not doing anything? Like, what is your issue, dude? Come on. How much do you need? You know, do you need permission to grow leaves? Jesus. Look at this. What are you doing? You look fine. You look fine. What's your problem? What's your problem? Why do you hate me? And I water you like twice a week, you drama queen. Jesus. This one too. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? Your root system's fine. God damn it. Just hate life. You just decided to pause, huh? I'm gonna laugh so hard if this thing's grown into the pole. Oh yeah, cheers. Like, that's what you've done. Great. All right, I think I'm gonna do the same to this one, guys. I might just completely chop them up to propagate, and then, you know what, I'm just gonna chuck this soil back in the box. Back in the box you go. And then I might chuck the base plants into a pot. This is a little dry at the bottom here, though there is a bit of moisture, so I don't get it. I really don't understand. If you guys have like, you know, superior wisdom when it comes to gigas and just how to get this plant to thrive, I have seen a bunch of people who have just like the most beautiful specimens. Sydney plant guy, fuck that guy, man. Seriously, he's just so awesome. Like, it's just so unfair. You see his plants and he makes everything, damn it, Jan, you make everything look so good. Your plants are so beautiful. And then it's like you go and try and replicate the process and it's just a total abortion. It's just embarrassing. You're like, I don't want to post this online. I don't want to show anyone. I just want to cry in a corner. And then hope one day I'll just have to grow out like 50 gigas and 50 melanochrysum. One of them will be semi-okay. And then I'll be like, hey, Jan, I'm going to tag you in this. Yay, I finally did it. And it's like one of those images where you're standing in front of the perfect thing and there's like 50 of them behind you that are all just like dumpster fires of plants. All right. I might just leave all these nodes on there. Screw it. You know what? It's funny. I'll probably completely chop this plant up. I might leave a single leaf on here. I'll give you a tiny chance. And it'll probably take off. You know, it'll be that thing of like, you thought I wasn't trying? And then I'll put these guys all in to propagate and it'll just be like, fuck are you? I'm coming back with a vengeance. Where am I going to put you? I don't have any space too. God damn it. Guess we'll get another one of these 14 centimeter pots and I will pot these guys up. I guess I'll scoop up a bunch of the soil that I just put back in here and we will see how these guys go. Because yeah, it's one of those things. As much as I'm sort of pissed off with these guys, I hate waste. And there is the potential for these plants to bounce back and do okay. So, did I just... I have never had a plant that is so delicate as well. Like, I literally just sort of move you around slightly and you just snap off in my hand. Back and do okay, so... Did I just... Come on, Gigas. I don't know if it's like... Gigas just has like the most, what would you say? Not fragile, brittle, right? Brittle stems. But it's happened a few times now, as I've shown you with the plant at the start there, where you just move them, you slightly bump it, and it just goes, like just explodes. It's like, what are you made from, glass? All right, I'm going to pot up off screen. I'm going to pot off up screen. I'm going to pot up off screen. And then I'll probably have to label this, seeing as now it's just going to be some stems and roots. That is the slap and tap technique, patented 2022. You can use it, guys. You can use it, but just be fair. Tell people where you learnt it, okay? I want a cheeky reference and a link to my videos. That is a joke. But seriously. Get down into that gap. So I've got an air gap over here. I'm just trying to get down and fill it up with substrate so that it's not going to pool with water and, well, actually just a pocket of air really. Okay. Jesus, I am such a mess. You guys will have to let me know. Are you guys total messes as well when you do this? I think I was telling you about Nora, Leca Queen, and she seems to like wear lovely gloves. She's always like so beautiful, amazing makeup. Everything is perfect, and she manages to pot, and she looks better after she's done all the potting, right? She looks clean. It's like she's come out of the shower and just smashed out all of the, beauty care and everything straight after the potting, and you're like, I come out looking like an ogre, just covered in soil. Yeah, you guys will have to let me know if you're similar. I don't know where I'm going to put this plant. All right, label it up so I know what it is. Gigas. Boom. Okay. And now I have all these cuttings that I have to deal with. I guess I'll just let them callus over in the corner there. You guys can go and cry, and I'll probably try and set up some kind of aeroponics for you because, I know if I put you in water, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen for ages. If that. The leaves will all die and nothing will happen. You'll end up just giving me a ton of wet sticks. Okay, so, all right, yes, let's go. Now, the other thing I need to do here is just tap and get the soil out of the bottom of the moss pole. That's good. And then put this aside because I will use that for something else in the future. I'm stacking them up again in my garage at the moment. Okay. All right, so same thing here, same deal. This is going to be wet. That's annoying. Maybe I'll do this into the... Oh, this is going to go everywhere. It's definitely stuck in the pot at least. So you've grown your root system. What are you stuck to? Jesus. Far out. How is this thing attached to the pot? What the hell is going on? Did she? Oh, she's tied it to the bottom. Weirdo. She's got some wire and she's attached it to the bottom of the pot here. That's why I was like, what is going on? Because it looks like, these are the pots that I use. They're the Bunnings pots, but these are the ones that she was obviously using. There we go. Okay. So same thing here, although I really don't know if I can be bothered keeping the base plants because I just don't need any more melanochrysum. I've got tons. I've got all these cuttings that I've taken. And again, it's just this thing of, it's just done nothing. I don't get it. All right. Get the stuff out of the base of this pole. I think part of the issue with this pole that she made, and I can really feel it, is it's just dense. I think she's put way too much moss into the pole. This was her original one. It just feels really, really compressed. And so I think that the plant never grew into it because, yeah, I don't know, it was having trouble pushing its roots in. Don't know, but it definitely feels dense and heavy, so I might actually take this one apart and sequester the moss and use it for something else. Okay, yeah, so that's crazy. These plants are probably a few years old, and that's the root system. So, don't know. I don't know what their problem was. I don't know why they were growing so badly on this pole, but that's one of the things I found with melanochrysum. If you're having an issue with it, just chop it up and start again. You know, I think that tends to, with a few of these things, with gigas and with melanochrysum, I found that has kind of sort of I don't know if it's like shocked the plant or gotten the plant to sort of start again with a root system and a growth point and everything, and then it's just sort of refreshed itself. But yeah, if you're having trouble with it, if in doubt, just chop it up and start again. So, yeah, do I bother keeping this thing? You know what, again, I think part of the, you know what the issue is here? She has moss really densely around the roots here. I thought this was like all really dense roots, but it's actually mostly moss. I don't know why the hell. It must have started as a propagation because there's the base. And every time I water this thing, it's probably soaking up loads and loads of water around this cutting here. Yeah, look at that. That's ridiculous. I'm just going to break it up. Look at the moss and how dense that moss is. And look, watch this. This is going to shock you, I think. That's the problem with having too much moss and densely packed moss around your cuttings. I think it's probably repeatedly given this thing root rot and stunted the root's growth. So I would imagine that's probably been what the problem is and why it hasn't been able to grow a significant root system. And I reckon it's the same with this one as well. There's a shitload of moss around the base. You've obviously taken it as a cutting and then just chucked it all into that well-draining soil that's here, but because there's so much moss around the base of the plant that was a cutting, the root system is getting way too wet every single time you water it. I water it as well. I should have probably just taken it apart from the beginning, but I didn't. So what can you do? All right. Yeah, and she's taking cuttings from cuttings. So I just took this off the thing. You can see, actually that might have been me. Don't listen to me. I'm complaining. That was actually me who took those cuttings. But yeah. Okay, so I guess I'm just going to treat these like kind of rooted wet sticks. I'll probably just put them in a prop box. But yeah, I don't know how well these are going to go. The roots are okay, but yeah, interesting. I don't know why these plants have just, besides the moss there and too much moisture potentially sticking around the base of the plant too often every time it gets watered, I don't know why it's just having such a shit time of growing. You know, why do you hate life so much? I think I will just do that, and that. I'm going to get rid of this moss and yeah, get the moss all out of here. Go away, soggy moss. And I'm going to save this soil because that's how I roll, baby. That's how I roll, even though it's slightly moist. It'll dry out in this soil bucket here. I guess I'll grab a prop box. Guess we lost a leaf. You know what, guys? It does actually feel good reducing the clutter, reducing the mess, as well as doing a bit of propagation. Make a bit more space. But I think I've seen Yarn Sydney Plant Guy with some of his moss poles, and I think a big key to it is just starting with a few cuttings that are pretty small and allowing them to have a really good start, as opposed to, say, buying a plant and trying to convince the plant to grab onto the pole. He seems to do that, and it seems to work pretty well. So I think that's what I'm going to do with these cuttings. And any moss pole that I decide to do in the future, I think I will just, I think I'm just going to try it with some cuttings at the base of the thing and just have some goddamn patience. Have some goddamn patience. I got no patience now. Sick of you. Time has come to pass. Who likes Tool? You guys like Tool? I am a massive Maynard fan. I think that's him with Rage Against the Machine. I've forgotten the name of that song, but he appears in it and does a little feature. Oh man, that guy has a sick voice. All right, so melanochrysum cuttings, in you go. So I'm just sort of sinking them down a little bit in the moss to make sure that the nodes and any of the roots that they may have get sort of surrounded by moss, and that the growth point is easily able to come up. I reckon that one can be cut again. Where did I put my little razor blade? But yeah, again, if you guys are in Australia and you want some melanochrysum, send me a message or something and we'll organise it, because I have a ton of it now and don't need all of it. Okay, I guess we'll try this one. Where's the growth point going to come out of there? Okay. Wonder how this guy's going to go in the prop box. Oh man. I guess I'll just sort of like sink the roots down into the prop box and we'll just see if they take off. Just put moss over the top of them. Hopefully it, yeah, wish it the best of luck. Nothing to lose. Lessons to learn as well. Who knows? Same thing here with this guy. So sinking him down. In you go. Some live moss in here too. I love seeing that now in some of these more mature moss boxes, prop boxes. I love seeing when there's sort of like live moss that's grown up a little bit. Okay, so the only other thing that I can think about putting in here is potentially some gigas. If I have some, I can't remember, did I get some wet sticks with no leaves, or do they all have leaves? They all appear to have leaves. All right, so I guess we'll just leave that as melanochrysum for now, and I will chuck the gigas into aeroponics because it's not going to do well in water or in the prop boxes. The leaves pretty much just rot off straight away, and although they do root eventually in the prop boxes, I found that it just takes forever. So, yeah. Okay, find somewhere to put this gigas plant as well. I'll give you some of that secondary juice water from the melanochrysum, and you can have the base of it too. And you can even have his little fungus gnat catcher. Look at that, reusing everything, guys, even the water. All right, clean up here, and then I will work out what's next. So next on the list of to-do is my yellow Thai here. So again, some of you disagree that it's a yellow Thai. I'm not sure. I'm growing it out to see. Could just be Aurea, who knows? But I think I'm going to do a similar thing to those albos earlier. So the root is growing over the side there. I would much prefer it to be inside the pot. And the other thing that I've noticed is it has just rapidly shot out roots all over the place. So I think it's not going to have an issue going up a size in pots. Well, up a few sizes rather. So I grab my soil, pot up a little layer at the base there with no mesh anymore. And I'm going to pull him out and I'll give you guys a look at the roots. Again, I have this guy in such a chunky mix that I'm literally watering it every 2 days because I think, one, it's just been growing like crazy, but two, I wonder, did it come in this mix? I don't think this is my mix. This might have been his mix. So yeah, I think it might be his mix. But it's incredibly chunky and the water pretty much just runs straight through it. So yeah, that's not mine. There's a lot of charcoal in there and the perlite is small. It's not chunky like my chunky perlite. So I think I am just going to move it straight across. That looks like a rotten root. But the roots do look really good. I don't know if you can see there, looking really big and chunky. I am going to sort of take a bit of this out. Sink it down. I just want that root on this side to be below the rim of the pot. I'm going to push it towards the side of the pot so that I can see that root as it goes down and just keep an eye on it. And I just love watching the root. Root porn is my favorite kind of porn, guys. Let's change the topic. Okay. Might also remove this moss. Whoa, those roots are looking really nice. And there's actually a few nodes there, guys. I can see there's a node that is activated slightly below there. I'm not sure if you can see there. It's kind of activated slightly and stopped. That can often happen when you propagate these things. the level of the hormones that are effectively what's happening is when you chop the tip that's growing off of a plant, the auxin, the hormones in there, pull at the top of the plant where the apical bud was, and because there's no apical bud, it activates the axillary bud next to where that cut was made and gets that to go. And so I think what happens is that if there is a low level of auxin because it's traveling all the way to the tip of the plant and then, that's pushing out new growth, if that auxin is passing those axillary buds and not pooling there and getting into a higher concentration, the axillary buds aren't activated. So what you need is obviously to cause the auxin to get to a higher level around the axillary buds to get them to activate. And this is why I think you often see if a plant has kind of grown up and then turned sideways, it's gone horizontal, and then it started to grow back up, often you'll see all of the axillary buds there just suddenly pop up. I think it happened on my platinum mint where there's like 6 different buds because it's come up, grown sideways, and then grown up again, and those buds have all paused after the plant started re-establishing itself and apical dominance was sort of determined again by the plant. But it's just a sort of really interesting process to kind of watch. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that it all just comes down to hormone balance, which is affected by whether or not the plant has been cut and the sort of angle of the different branches and the arrangement or the location of those different axillary buds. I thought that was a bit of garlic for a sec. I was like, what the hell is that doing in there? But it is cocoa husk. Okay. So. The label the video that. Okay, so, all right. Now I'm like going to notice every freaking time I do this. And you guys will be always like, every video now we notice you saying it. You shouldn't have mentioned it. All right, slap and tap. It's almost like I'm giving it a little bit of pepper. The worm castings are all coming out the bottom. Slap and tap. And you know what? I might just sneak a bit of this moss back in over the top of where that aerial root was, just to hold in a bit of moisture when it gets watered. Keep it around that aerial root whilst it is growing south. That's what's really cool too. I think part of the reason, so when I was learning about auxin and its role in cells, I think when sunlight hits plant cells, when the plant is obviously growing above ground, so there's the stem, the leaves, everything like that, in the stem, when the cell is hit with sunlight, the sunlight causes the side of the cell that's being hit, the cell walls, to contract and shorten, and that's what gets the plant to actually turn towards the sun. So it's all about mechanisms within the cell causing that side of the cell wall, either facing the sun or away from the sun, to contract or expand, and that's what gets plants to move one way or the other, and different parts of the plants to do different things. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that when stems come out like this, the reason that the leaves will turn towards the sun or the stem will grow towards the sun is because the sun is hitting the cells on the side of the plant that's facing the sun, and those are shortening in the rigidity. The side of the cell wall is contracting and causing the plant to face it. With the roots, it's the opposite. I think if the sun hits the roots, it's telling the roots to grow down because the side facing the sun is actually expanding, and so the root turns away from the sunlight. Again, I'm not sure if that's a bit of bro science, but that was what I think I was reading about when I was looking at the role of cytokine and auxin, the two main sort of hormones related to growth and propagation in these plants. So yeah, there's the yellow Thai. I guess we're all done there. And same thing, I think it's probably all good for a day or two before watering again. And I'll just keep an eye on it. And then, yeah, it's going to be good to see this guy grow. He has been going crazy. So you can already see another leaf coming out. So I'm pretty impressed at how voracious this guy's been. And I think it probably all comes down to the fact that the root system was really, really established when I got it. Though it was an interesting story. I keep looking at this plant and just thinking, what are you? What are you? Be you human? Nay, we are but men. Rock. Jack Black, what a legend. But yeah, I just keep thinking, are you an Aurea? Are you this yellow Thai? Do yellow Thais even exist? What am I smoking? All right, get down there, get down there, get down there. I actually lost the tag. Come on. Fill up those gaps around the roots. Gently. The good thing is when you water this, it should sort of send all of the smaller particles down into these gaps, you hope. Let's see if I can squeeze that and get some of that down. Come on. All right. A little bit more soil here at the top. Fill that in. And I need a little tray. And we will chuck him back. All right, while we're here, I might as well show you what I meant with the mint. So we were talking about all those shoots that it activated. So I'm not sure if you can see there, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's a growth point that is just activating now on the other side of the plant. So there is going to be 6 potential growth points here, because as you can see, the plant was growing sort of horizontally like this. But then when it started growing up like this was the plant that I chopped up recently and sold. That's what happened. No, sorry, they paused. The plant kept growing and these growth points paused. The only interesting thing, so this was about a week ago, the interesting thing that I've noticed, this little dude here has already started to shoot. So yeah, this little yellow tip is coming out and it's already growing. I'm not sure what's going to happen with these guys. I assume they're not going to enlarge or anything, but instead you'll have other shoots come up through the back of them. But pretty cool nonetheless. But yeah, he's a big bitch. Some more tasks, and I'm trying to smash out a bunch today. I am thinking about potting these guys up out of moss. I'm not sure, but these are Philodendron Choco Reds, and I'm pretty keen to kind of take at least one out and pot it up and see how it goes. I'm planning to sell a bunch of them, and I guess full disclosure, I bought these in tissue culture for, I think it was about $50 a plant. It may have been $500, $550, I can't remember. It was around that. It was one of the two, so it was either 50 or 55 bucks a plant. And I have been growing them out, and all of them have survived. And there's a whole bunch in here that are double or even triple planted. See, this one's double planted. In fact, that's triple planted. You can see there's 1, 2, and then there's third one at the back. They've all survived. They've all done really well. It was actually really easy, to be honest. Like, as much as people freak out about tissue culture, all I had to do was follow the steps. It's kind of like cooking, and that's the basic thing. It looks scary, but when you just look at the steps of what you need to do and you just go through it slowly, it's much easier than you expect. And then the only sort of part that you really have to kind of take care with is just that gradual exposure to lower and lower humidity to the point where you can just have them sitting out like this. And that only took about a month. And all I really did, again, I wasn't really following any, like I need to do exactly 7 days of 100% humidity and then 7 days of 95.36% humidity. It was more just gradually exposing them I'm doing that because I'm lifting the box's lid to lower and lower humidity to the point where I got them sitting at 70% humidity. And then that was, my room at the moment is say 65. Sometimes it's at 70. And that's because it's raining so much at the moment. But once it was at about 70% in the box and they were all still looking really good, I just took the lid off. And they've just been doing this ever since, growing like crazy. I actually have some Philodendron rugosum in here as well. So I'm growing those out. It's going to be interesting to see how they go. They seem to be doing well too. And at the moment, I give them a little bit of fertilizer every now and then and mainly just make sure they're sort of hydrated with water. But they're in moss and the moss seems to be drying out really quickly. Quite frequently. So that is why I'm kind of keen to pot one of these up in soil or even chuck one in semi-hydro and just seeing how it goes. So perhaps we do that. Perhaps we do one of each. Maybe we put one in soil and see what happens. And maybe we put the other in semi-hydro. I'm just trying to think of which ones to do. The ones that I'm really not looking forward to dealing with, to be honest, are the ones that are in these glass jars. Because I don't want to have to be responsible for pulling them out of the glass jars. Though that's pretty piss weak. So maybe I should just do one of these glass jar ones. This one's double planted, so perhaps we do this. And the other thing that I have to work out is whether or not to put them in a pot that's like this big, or if I try and find some smaller pots. But I kind of want to see the roots. I could just use one of these and put soil in it, I guess. Maybe we do that. I've got some of those sitting around here somewhere. All right, I'll go find some of those and we'll put soil in those. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the best option. And what I am going to do first, though, is chuck some drainage holes in the bottom. So with the soil, I won't do semi-hydro, like having perlite at the bottom or something, or leca, and instead we'll just have it as completely soil. And just be careful when you're doing this, guys. Sometimes it gives really quickly. Obviously you can just use a drill or a glue gun or something. A glue gun, what is it called again? A soldering iron. I've seen, I think it's Harley G using a soldering iron. I just shove a knife in there and twist. It's pretty quick. Quick and easy. Just gentle though, because that happens and you don't want to take off a finger. Jesus Christ, imagine if I did that on camera. And it's just like, here's Pete. Okay, we're doing this vlog in the hospital, guys. Okay. So, why have I got two? I wanted to do one of them in semi-hydro, and I guess with semi-hydro you don't really need to worry about the size of the vessel, or do you? You guys let me know. All right, I'm going to go find a vessel for semi-hydro, and then we will pot up two of these guys. Got one of these shakes from this morning from my wife, so she grabbed a banana shake, and I think that's probably perfect. So, how am I going to get this guy out of here? That, in a way that doesn't destroy the roots too badly. Might grab my tweezers out. Okay, where's my dissection kit? And so yeah, price-wise on these, if you're interested, I've seen them going, because there's been a few people buying these as tissue culture. I've seen them going for anywhere between $150 to $250. And the initial price to get them was $50. So it's a pretty good return on investment if you can sell them for 3 to 5 times the buy-in. Though obviously, you have to take care of them. You got to make sure they survive. You might lose some. Okay, so I'm just kind of putting the tweezers in here and moving the moss gently away from the side of the vessel of the Lord. And if I see any roots here, I'm trying to be very gentle. And I'm hoping that at the end, I will be able to just kind of slide this dude out gently without doing too much damage to the plant, because that's the only thing I'm sort of worried about. When they're small like this and they have a very sort of fragile root system, they may not do too well with being disrupted. And I've actually noticed that with tissue culture. I've got a whole box full of different things behind me up here on a shelf, and they were sold to me initially in a mix of moss and perlite at the top, but then a bunch of perlite at the bottom, and I don't think that they were staying moist for long enough. They were drying out really quickly, so they hadn't grown much. They were looking fine, but they hadn't grown a great deal. So when I took them out of that medium and put them into my medium of moss and a little bit of perlite in these cups, they actually kind of freaked out and dropped a bunch of their leaves at the base. They're still looking healthy, but they did drop a bunch of leaves, and I think that I chalk that up to disturbing the root system, and the root system just not being able to maintain all of the growth that it had, and just dropping the oldest leaves first. Okay, so I think I'm just going to try and sort of scoop him out. And the reason this is hard, and that I shouldn't have put it in a jar like this, is because the rim of the jar kind of holds everything in, annoyingly. Whereas if I had just used Dixie cups, or the little party cups for everything, it would just fall straight out. Okay, so again, I don't want to pull on the plant because I really don't want to separate the root system from the plant. It would probably be okay. If I did that, I would chuck it into aeroponics immediately, and it would probably be okay. I think it would probably survive. All right. Okay, here we go. I think I've got it out. Okay. I did just notice that I have done some root damage here. This is the sort of tricky part, guys, if you were to transfer these into semi-hydro and have to remove all the moss from the roots, that is going to be, I think, a bit of a nightmare just because of how fine the roots are. So I'm almost debating in my head whether or not to actually attempt that and maybe just put them into soil and see how they go. Oh, someone's here, hold on. Okay, where were we? Yeah, I think because these roots are so fine, I am sort of very nervous to dick around with it too much. I may even just leave the moss here and just have to pay attention to watering for a while because I think it's just not going to be worth doing all that damage to the roots. So yeah, let's just pot it up in soil and we'll see how this one goes. And I might pot it up in this larger one. So we'll see if I can remove much of this moss. It doesn't seem like it. The other cool thing is there is a little one here on the side. And I wonder if I can pull him out. Well, he doesn't have much of a root system at all. Or I just ripped it off. Sorry, little dude. I'll try and separate you out and grow you separately. Where's my little spade? A little shovel. All right. So, okay. I think I'm just going to leave him like that. Maybe a little bit more. I've sort of submerged some of these smaller leaves down the bottom below the soil. I'm not really too phased about them kind of rotting off or whatever. They're going to die anyway really quickly because they're the sort of first ones to come out. I didn't put drainage holes in this thing. Man, I am off the planet today. I have to do that with the soil in here gently, or just be really, really careful not to overwater. But yeah, I don't trust myself, to be honest. Okay, so again, applying a bit of pressure, twisting a lot to try and drill through, and just being really careful not to allow it to slide through too quickly. Okay, that should be good enough. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly this one takes off now that it has so much more substrate to grow into. I'm hoping it makes a big difference compared to these ones in the box here, because yeah, I do want a large specimen growing out. In the meantime, what can I do with this little dude? Very cute. I guess I will just maybe moss you back up in one of these little cups. Yeah, okay. I guess I'll just wish him the best and hope he makes it. But I've just put it in some damp moss here. Tried not to compress it too much, and I will chuck him back in the box here and wish him the best. Don't know if I ripped off the entire root system there and he's screwed. Good luck to you, mate. And yeah, this guy, where should I put this guy? To find another space for him. I don't think he's going to fit in the box anymore. But yeah, pumped to see how this one goes. All right, so guys, we've been going for like an hour and 20 minutes here. I can see on the camera. I'll probably reduce it down a bit. But yeah, I hope you've been enjoying this episode. Let me know what you reckon. Send me a comment, send me a like, subscribe, obviously, all that jazz. And in the meantime, check out this video next, and I will hopefully see you there. Peace.